The content, views, and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and do not necessarily reflect the view and opinions of the City of Bremerton, BCAT, their officials, or their employees.
Welcome to Real Talk with DMJ. Well, today I have on the show these beautiful, beautiful ladies, activists, educators, entrepreneurs. We have Akuye Karen Vargas. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we also have Chasity. You know something? I can never say her last name correctly. Chasity, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And, I'm so glad to have you ladies here. And the reason why I brought you on the show today is because to talk about our history.
Ooh.
I feel like we've been discounted, no count, became a non-factor in Kitsap County. I was at one of my Rotary meetings, and we had our museum person there, and they were showing all the history, the Filipinos, how everybody was counted. And the only thing that showed up for us was just Quincy. Like, that was the only thing, Quincy Jones and, the piano. But it was just a segment, not even a segment, I'll say a clip of him. And I'm thinking, well, I'm a Bremertonian. I've been here when we did the marches and they burnt the crosses in Posbo. And I said, that history needs to be told. The first Black family in Posbo was the Moore family. Excuse me. And we've done a lot here. I mean, our history, how we've forgotten about Jeannie Hawkins. Well, I'll say her name correct. Miss Jeannie Thomas Hawkins Johnson. Yes. Which she's done a lot. Yes. One of our old historians, and her mother, Miss Emma Thomas. We forgot about them. Mr. Admiral Ross. Mm-hmm. We forgot Mr. Green. We have two Mr. Greens. We have two yes. Greens. Yes. So Miss Hazel Green's husband. I always say Mr. Green, so I don't know their friend. And then Miss Frances Green's husband. I always say Mr. Green, so that's why I can't say their first names, because gods, I never called them by their first names.
That's right.
So it seemed like how they've gotten, erased, forgotten. Mm-hmm. How we just picked and choose, and then how some people are claiming our history and forgot to come and ask the Bremertonians about
yes.
our history.
Yes.
Like they talk about Quincy Jones, how knowing I wanted to have today his first girlfriend, yes. Miss Juanita Walker. I wanted to have her daughter on the show because he went to Coons Junior High School. He didn't start at Bremerton High School. It was Coons Junior High School. How they didn't even bother to really dig into our history here. Who started it? Who opened the doors?
Yes.
It seemed like they took and picked and chose pieces of it, but they don't have our history yes. accurate. They don't have our history accurate. How where Coffee House Oasis is on
right.
Burwell.
That's right.
James Brown, Eula Mae Johnson. She should have been on our history. How she used to go with James Brown. James Brown came here and was here. That was one of our first Black clubs, where the Coffee House Oasis is on that. So they're missing so many pieces. Like, Karen, you have many articles yes. of my grandmother when they
yes.
all migrated here, all the way from Louisiana. They migrated here to work in the shipyard. Some ended up in Spokane, Washington.
Oh, yes.
Over in Seattle. So we have a lot of our missing hindered, like we've been a no count. You're receiving fundings and monies for us, for the Black community.
That's right.
But we don't get to reap it. We're just only worth a proclamation or a photo. But then the fundings that you do receive for us, they're allocated to other people. And so I wanted to talk about our missing history, our history, why we're not counted, and how can we become to be counted and to bring awareness, to the Black community, and that we matter. And then the Bremertonians that are here, they need to hear this, because it seems like we have everyone that's migrated here, but like we forgot the Lewises, Carolyn Yvonne Lewis, Tonita Naylor, which is Tonita Joyner, her maiden name. Talking to those individuals, those are the Nell Golden, you know, Harriet Zuber and them, you know, the Zuber family from Mount Zion. Many of them, they haven't even came to speak with us, ask us our real history. We just took a piece that the white man handed us and let them run with that when you don't know our whole history, our whole foundation, how we built Bremerton.
Oh, come on. Kitsap County.
Yeah, Kitsap County.
As a whole.
Correct. Definitely. So I know I've said a lot here. So can I hear from you ladies?
Of course. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about the founding of the NAACP and those that migrated here back in the early 1800s.
Yes.
You know, in the first African American, Justice of the Peace that was appointed in the 1800s. You know, they totally erased those histories of those that came and migrated to this region to help build the bases, the shipyards, the industries, the mining, and they really developed this Pacific Northwest, especially Kitsap County. And those entire families, almost 20,000, you're talking about almost 20,000 African Americans that migrated from the 1800s and until, the early 1900s. It's as if that whole history was being erased.
Well, my thing is, Ms. Akuye, that our museum that we hear, they don't even have us in there, but just Quincy Jones.
Yes.
That's all. I mean, it seemed like everybody, even Miss Wilson.
Yes.
That's the Phyllis Egan's grandmother.
Egan's.
Yes. And Miss Wilson, she played a big part. Miss Tessie Williams. Spin off the Griffin family. It's just that we need to be made aware of, and we need to, I think their other generations need to come to the forefront and say, you forgot my people.
Yes.
You forgot my grandmother.
Yes.
You forgot my great-grandmother.
Yes.
We done this and that. Since they don't want to count us, I think the other generations need to step up and come forward.
Yes.
And then you were telling me, I had spoke with you, Miss Chasity, about about our history, how we're being missed, how you had spoke with the mayor about some things.
One of the questions that we had, and we had just attended the Who We Are project on Bay Ridge Island when they came to talk about how they were going to significant national historical for African Americans and how they were getting local groups to commission to make sure that they were getting the historical markers documented and how they're on policies to make sure. And in the current administration, we've seen so many rollbacks of federal and state level of honoring the African American histories, things like Juneteenth and MLK, opportunities for African Americans to come together, talk about the needs of the Black community. Those were our places. And as the rollbacks have happened, we've seen this sort of anti-Black sentiment. So in communities where they didn't designate and have a historical community that was specifically and intentionally designed to collect those oral histories over a sustained period of time, document, marker them, we are seeing sort of a drop in even being able to collect that information. Yep. So because of a conversation I had with you, Miss Deborah, that was beautiful, you were talking about all these people, and I thought, well, I can go to the city of Bremerton and look up our African American histories.
Yes.
My father served at JBM. I can go and Google him. I can go and look up our history. So I said, you can go up and Google these folks because there's Heritage Committee dedicated to African American history. And there was not. There was a cultural arts, but there was no significant intention of the city to designate funds that would go ahead and allocate for you to be able to have those history pieces. And so that got me questioning, we're implementing this beautiful Quincy Jones project that maybe thousands of people are going to see or have seen maybe already that is beautiful. Albeit small, it is amazing that the community came together and wants this project. So I asked the mayor, with the coming of this project, is any of this money going to be funneled back into the community? More preservation projects.
Yes.
Crea's been doing this for 40 years, acquiring these pieces. So surely the city's going to back these projects. And he said, well, when we see monetary gain on the Quincy Jones, we'll see if we start to see that money will come back. And I'm like, if the intention in these projects from the get
Yes.
is not to have money coming back into building that community, those monies are never going to reach the Black community.
Correct.
So if you have the intentionality of drawing tourism in your chamber in the city for the Black community, music, for the legacy that Quincy Jones laid, you need to tell the whole story. He was redlined out of Bremerton.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Having the truth be told about what happened, the implications, who built it, and really truth in telling this Juneteenth and Black 250th is going to be extremely important. People are holding on to stories in their families that need to get shared.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to add to that is that when Diane Robertson and many of the community members came in, they had the Kitsap County Historical African American Museum.
Correct.
That was down on Park
Avenue.
And then when Diane Robinson was called back to care for her mother and sister back in Pensacola, Florida, what happened was she went directly to the Kitsap County Historical Society, to the city, asked them to help to preserve this rich history that led all the way back to the 1700s and how they could preserve the footprints of those that worked with and built those shipyards, military, civic leaders, families that helped build and shape our county as a whole. And they wanted to pick and choose just 5 out of entire. And you had all of this history for centuries that they wanted to just erase. And so when she went and they said that they wanted these 5 individuals, she said, if you do not protect and preserve this entire rich history and contributions of African Americans that migrated here, you don't get any. And she put it in a storage unit. And from that point, we begin to say, how can we begin to make sure it's being preserved, it's being protected? We did celebration of hidden history at the Admiral Theater so that we could advocate, so that we can bring awareness to the community. We began to do healing our land, healing our history. We did another entire community exhibition at Emmanuel Apostolic Church that was on 6th Street. We also did celebration of hidden history. So we were trying to go throughout the county to bring awareness. We went to the Bainbridge Island Historical Society, began to do the research, pulling out the rich history of those footprints and contributions of African Americans on Bainbridge Island, in the north end of our county, you know, those that was in Bremerton, those that was in South Kitsap, all of those regions. And they came and they did the assessment and they said, this is quite an extensive collection. We don't even have the room to be able to preserve that. So that's when we went down to the city. We said to the city, we wanted to do cultural, historical preservation. We wanted to do the living arts, cultural heritage. We wanted to do cultural tourism, preserving our history, but also doing economic development. We started working with Bishop Lawrence Ray Robertson with the Latch Project. The project was presented to the city, and all they wanted was the Quincy Jones piece. And they made sure that that was being run by the Downtown Bremer Association, totally enriched the African American community.
Systemic racism.
Systemic.
Systemic.
And historically. That when you talk about how resources are allocated, when you do economic development, when you do the systemic governmental practice of public administration, and they look at the budget and they say who receives what resources go where, and they are very much systemically a part of the oppressive and controlling of resources.
And to me, it seems like it's another form of shackles, not wanting our children,
Yes.
our next generation, to see that we've always been doers, movers, and shakers, to keep that hidden from them and to keep them going down the other road. You know what I'm saying? When our children, that's coming after our grandchildren, they need to be made aware of this. I think this is another of keeping us shackled and holding us back, not wanting to educate and share this history for our children can see. We're more like, I believe Cicely Tyson said, we're more than our hips and our thighs.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I love that you said that, because imagine the contributions, because people know about Bremerton. I mean, this last year, championship basketball team, we got our babies out here getting the spotlight for their accomplishments. We have rising scholars in Bremerton that are getting acknowledgement. But imagine if they walk down the street and they're like, I know a great-great-grandpa was part of the design. I not only belong, but I built Bremerton.
Yes.
Parts of Bremerton were built by families from Europe, families from Asia, families from all these different communities. And it does empower a kid to know that not only do I belong in a space that might be homogeneously white, but I built it.
Yes, correct.
Because I know how your nieces and nephews look at you when you walk around Bremerton. They're like, oh, my Aunt Deborah knows. And you do know everyone. But that sense of
related
comfort,
to everyone, too.
I'd say that.
But that sense of comfort of knowing that they're held by their community means that they're going to want to come back and build in their community.
Yes.
So when we have, let's Quincy Jones Square, and people are coming to this community and saying, these are the greats. Imagine being a part of that and knowing they're the part of the fabric of this land. The military had a high percentage of our Black. Looking at the indigenous footprint, because we're on indigenous lands, it's our responsibility to tell the whole story.
No, I'm glad you said that, because my nephew, I hadn't met them yet. And so when I ran for mayor, and then when I lost my niece, their mother, in a car accident, of course, I'm going to be right there, and they called on me. And then when I met them for the first time, and they came running up to me, my two little nephews, oh, I was his show and tell when I ran for mayor. I didn't even know, but he was so proud when you talk about our history.
That's right.
What our young people, our children need to be aware of. He had used me, and my god brother and them had collected pictures I was his show and tell. And my auntie is running for mayor. He was so proud. You know how proud he was as being of a young child of color, knowing that we're doing something too. We count, we matter. We're about it too, about our community. And how proud that young man, just to be a kindergarten, another one was in second grade. So I was both there. I was so proud myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my, I was a show and tell.
When you talk about the importance of our culture, our history, our heritage, our contributions, our valuing of all of the accomplishments that we have made and the impact that we have made to this region, it is tremendous. There is no reason why our Kitsap County African American culture, history, and heritage should be in Pierce County.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Why
is it there?
Why is that? That was because of Dr. Maxine Mims, when I went to her house and I was crying to her about, they don't want to help us to preserve our culture and history and heritage. And I'm boo-hooing, over there. And she said, so what you going to do, little black girl? Sit up there
That sounds just
and
like
cry?
her. Yeah.
She said, if you want me to help you to preserve, she said, bring it here. Say right here at this school. You go back to school and get your degree as a cultural custodian and a preservationist for our culture and history. If you're going to sit up here and cry and not even actively do anything about how you're going to protect this, how you're going to preserve it, how are you going to be activists to make sure that this history is not being erased, she said, then go now. Because, and when she said that to me, I went, I stopped crying. Because she made
you had
me
to step up.
That's what she said. She said, don't be just complaining all the time. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are you actively doing? How are you holding others accountable?
There you go.
How are you really invested? If you say you're invested in protecting and preserving this history, say, put your money where your mouth is. Shut your mouth and get to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how.
Now I want to ask you, are you bringing any young people behind you? Because you aren't going to be here forever. Teaching
course.
them. Of course, me too. Yeah.
I'm glad you
I
said
think
that.
we're both doing the same thing.
But you know what? It is important to understand, because until we mentor them and share all of this knowledge and this wisdom and understanding, and we have lost tremendous leaders and elders, and they have left here with all of that knowledge and all of that understanding and all of what they had learned. And now it's gone. I wish I could go back to a Bishop Lawrence Ray Robertson and did those oral histories and oral interviews and said, tell us how hard it was for you to get the only African-American community center here for our whole county.
Well, I'll never forget,
How?
Bishop Robertson shared with me when I started Surviving Change, when I came back here. He goes, daughter, that's what he always called me. He said, daughter, it took 19 years for them to accept me. That's what he told me. It took, and me, well, I ain't finna take me no 19 years. Girl, he didn't lie. They got to watch you before they accept you, try and tear you down. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And build an army to go against you, to destroy you.
Come on.
And it took them, he said, 19 years for them to accept him and have a place in Kitsap County in this community.
That's right.
And that's sad. Ladies, we're going to have this conversation again.
Yes, we have to.
I really wish we could have an audience. I've been asking.
To weigh in.
Can I have, yes. I've been wanting an audience to go ahead, and I want to continue this conversation, because there's a lot more that needs to be said, how we're going to fix this, how we're going to move.
Yes, how we're going to move forward.
Yes.
And I'm glad you said that, Deborah, because we understand the dynamics and we understand the challenges and we understand the pushback. But how will we unify, come together collectively? Because I don't have all the pieces. You don't have all the pieces. Miss Chasity doesn't have all the pieces. But collectively, we can make the impact to move these things forward. But if we are fighting and devouring and pulling down one another and competing and all of those things, and those are some of the dynamics that was in our enslavement, that those that enslaved us really made sure that they implemented a culture that would continue, that would be a part of the dynamic where they can still control.
And we have young people who need to love themselves. And here's the thing. When both of you walk into a room, and I'll add Dr. Lily and I'll add some women in this, the feeling of safety and holding for African-American women throughout Kitsap County, I would say parts of Seattle and Pierce, because both of you get too far too fast, are held. And so the power that you have in being able to assure young women that they have history, and they more importantly, they have longevity, and they have a calling on their lives, is in every step that you all take in Kitsap County.
And we're going to stop on that note. And thanks you for those words. But thank you for tuning in to Real Talk with DMJ.